Our Telecom SA, South Africa's biggest landline provider, has reported a rise in full-year earnings and revenue, buoyed by a strong performance by its mobile business and its business connection enterprise division. With the completion of a turnaround plan which aimed to bring down costs, including job cuts, and better compete with wireless operators, the company's focus on growth under Chief Executive Saifo Maseko shows signs it is paying off. Telkom, in which the government owns a stake of about 40%, says headline earnings per share for the year ended March rose 12.4% to 731.4 cents from 650.9 in the comparable period last year. Telkom, whose core business is providing fixed and mobile phone lines and data, bought BCX for 2.6 billion rand in 2015, 7 years after competition concerns scrapped its first bid. Still in South Africa, Telecom's operator Vodacom Group says its second biggest shareholder, the Public Investment Corporation, will vote in favor of its 34.6 billion rand takeover of Kenya's Safaricom. The PIC, which includes the Government Employees Pension Fund, holds a 15.63% interest in Vodacom Group. UK-based group Vodafone moved to consolidate 2 of its African interests in May with the sale of a 35% stake in Kenya Safaricom to Vodacom in exchange for an increased stake in the South African company, where it is already majority owner. In its letter of support, the PIC has undertaken to vote in favor of the resolutions required to implement the proposed transaction at the general meeting to be convened by Vodacom Group. And in Zimbabwe, the cash crunch is biting hard, and to get ahead of the queue amid the crisis, citizens are spending the night outside banks in the hope of receiving their money by morning. The Southern African nation, which ditched its own currency for the greenback and other foreign currencies in 2009, is experiencing acute shortages of cash, forcing banks to limit daily withdrawals.
A cash shortage in Zimbabwe has forced people desperate for money to camp along pavements as they wait to access their savings. Zimbabwe is short of dollars due to its moribund economy. Cash shortages in the last 12 months have seen banks impose daily maximum withdrawal for most Zimbabweans of sometimes as little as $50 per day. People sleeping outside in the cold and with limited options for toilets say they've been left with few choices.
The situation is terrible. We have to brave the chilly weather because we have no option but to sleep here at the bank, hoping to get cash in the morning. It's bad. How can I pay school fees, pay rent, feed my family with $30? Besides, landlords don't have swipe machines. They want their money in cash. So we end up sleeping here hoping to get cash. I've been sleeping here for the past week.
Banks in the country close at 3 p.m. on weekdays and about noon on Saturdays. Customers who don't make it to the teller before close of business are forced to wait in line until the next day. The Southern African nation last year introduced bond notes to ease the cash shortage, but the International Monetary Fund says Zimbabwe needs comprehensive reform instead to address the problem. Shortages of foreign currency and cash have hit consumer spending, with businesses struggling to pay for imports and repay foreign loans. Some businesses, especially those importing goods, are now offering discounts on cash purchases in US dollars while charging more for mobile or card transactions.
The crisis is basically a crisis of confidence. There's very little confidence in the economy in general and in the financial sector, in the banks in particular. And this is shown by the dearth of new cash deposits into the system. The financial system does say, in terms of the official figures, they're sitting on about $6 billion in deposits. But anecdotal evidence points to the fact that there is very little, if any, physical cash deposits going into the system. So what you have and that is manifesting itself in the long lines that refuse to go away, is that people are simply drawing cash out from the system.
Zimbabwe abandoned its own hyperinflation-hit currency in 2009 in favor of the US dollar, but a widening trade deficit, lack of foreign investment, and a decline in remittances by Zimbabweans abroad have helped to fuel foreign currency shortages.
And in Ethiopia, many businesses are beginning to feel the impact of the shutdown of internet by the government. The government shut off the internet again to prevent a repeat leak of exam papers. Last year, activists fighting for the rights of the Oromo people leaked a paper to push for more time so students from their region to study, saying they had been out of school for several months following a police crackdown on demonstrations against the plan to requisition land in their region.
Ethiopia has cut off internet access nationwide until at least June 8th to try to stop cheats from posting high school exam papers on social media. Hundreds of thousands of students are taking the tests throughout the Horn of Africa country. Grade 10 exams started on May 31st and ends on June 2nd, while Grade 12 tests will take place from June 5th until June 8th.
If the exams are leaked, we'll be in a lot of trouble because the results will be delayed or the exam dates extended. So the fact that the internet is blocked and we got exams on time is a good thing. I know it hurts many people, even though it's a benefit to us.
Mohammed Said, Public Relations Director of Ethiopia's Office for Government Communication Affairs, says only access to social media outlets was cut off, and that services such as airline bookings and banking requiring internet access remained intact. But businessman Minale Shawal says his internet cafe business has been grossly affected.
I have recurring costs on top of the investment I made when I opened this shop. It is not something that I can stop immediately and switch to another business when they cut off internet abruptly, just like that. It was cut off without any warning. Then we will be expected to pay for a service we haven't used? This is unfair.
It is not the first time that Addis Ababa has pulled the plug on the internet. At the height of protest in late 2015 and 16, Ethiopia imposed a blanket ban for weeks before disrupting only social media outlets such as Facebook and Twitter.
If you consider this as a normal course of precaution, shutting off the entire internet as a normal and acceptable way of doing business, then you are likely to do it again and again. So the impression, justifiably, the impression that gives to all stakeholders or to everybody who does business in Addis Ababa is this is a country where you don't know when the internet works and when it doesn't. So that simply turns off some business to Nairobi or elsewhere, to Nairobi or Cairo, where internet is more reliable than Ethiopia.
Critics say Ethiopia, an important Horn of Africa ally of the West, sandwiched between volatile Somalia and Sudan, often clamps down on freedoms under the guise of national security, although the government denies the accusation.
And with that story from Ethiopia, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you for watching.